Okay, so let's break this down into what is going to be used inside of this document. We have pieces called elements. There's an HTML element, there's a head element, there's a style element, there's a div or div element, and then there's a body element. So the div element is a container. Div is the generic container for flow content. Has no effect on the content or layout until stylized in some way using CSS. So for further explanation, we can try, the Mozilla website allows you to try HTML with CSS, and it shows an example of the CSS and how that CSS is being used inside of the div container. And this is an image inside of the div container, and this is the text inside of the div container. And so it comes out just like this. Here's the image of this leopard image link, and here's the text, beware of the leopard, from the text that we put in here. And the way that they had the red border, the yellow background, and the text, that is decided by the CSS. So now I'm going to create a class, a CSS class. I'm going to call that class style1. What that's going to do is that's going to describe the style of the div element. It's going to describe a style of an element. Now what does that mean? What is the color of the text of that element? Well, the color is going to be white for the text. What is the font size of the text in that element? It's going to be 2, and EM is a unit of measurement for web. What is the padding? It's going to be 1 M. And what is the background? The software I'm using is called Sublime Text. That's my text editor. And I've saved this file called index.html. So with Sublime Text, it allows you to add a few things automatically. So for example, I'm going to start typing style, S-T-Y-L-E, and I'm going to hit tab, and then it fills that in for me. Style type equals text / CSS, and then close style. Separate those. Now we have space to place our style inside of. So that style opening, which is style type equals text CSS, and style closing, indicated by the /. And notice the location of that is between the opening and the closing of the head. And just for proper presentation, I'm going to select both of them, hit tab, and have that indentation space so that you can know this is nested within inside of that head element. So now we can add our class within here. And then the actual content that we're going to modify is going to go right here within the body. So this is where we add the div container. So again, with the Sublime Text, I'm going to type in div, hit tab. It creates the opening of the div and the closing of the div. And we can separate those with enter. So if I say, hello, this is our page, however you want to write it, that's going to be the content nested within the div element, the opening and closing of the div element. And then within here, we'll add our CSS class. Within our style elements, hit the period, type in the name of the class. We just created that, give us a space. And then you have an open bracket and a close bracket. I'm going to separate those two with enter. Notice the type of bracket is the curled brace bracket. So you have the period, the class name, which I'm calling style1, the opening curled brace bracket, and the closing curled brace bracket. So now we can add in all of these: color, font size, padding, and background. So to do this, we need to find a way. How do I connect this over to this? So first, let's make this a blue background. So you come in here into the style, hit background, colon, and there's going to be a semicolon, and then you type in blue. There's your style. Style 1 contains the properties of blue background. Now, how do we make this style 1 with the blue background connect to this information? What we do is within the div elements, we write class equals, and these are quotations, class equals quote, and then we add the name. We come up here, we grab the name of this class. I'm going to copy it, or we can come back in here and type it, and then I'm going to paste it in there. So we take this class name, we don't take the period from it, we leave that there within the actual style section. We just take the name and we come down and we add it into the class equals quote, open quote, close quote. So then now the div has div class equals open quote style 1 close quote. And then we have the content, and then we have the closing of the div. So what does that mean? That means that this blue background, this information, this description is going to be applied to everything within here. Now let's test it. I'm going to save it, save this document, come over to my browser and refresh my browser. So now we see the blue background. So of course this looks pretty bad because it's hard to see. We're going to place a white on the blue background, give it some contrast. Back to our style, we want the color to be white, okay. With inside of the style class, add color, colon with a semicolon, and then type in white. I'm going to save it. So we've just made a change to the style. This is going to receive that information, take it down to here, and then add it to this whole section. Save it, come over here and refresh. Now we have white on blue, some nice contrast. Okay, so it's a little close to the edge of the box, and the box is kind of large, so we can adjust that as well. Part of my style was to say I want this specific size and I want specific padding. Come over here, add font size 2 M's. Save it. Back to my browser, refresh. Now keep in mind, I am enlarging the browser just for viewers' sake, but you can see that it does increase it. We can put it back down to 1M. Save it. We could put it down to 0.5. Save it. Refresh. So you can see how it's able to save 3, adjust the size just by that small number right there. What else did we want to add? Wanted to add padding because it looks pretty terrible just bumped up against that. Nice. Padding. Okay. 2M. Save. Refresh. So that gives us some nice readable space. We can continue to modify the actual content of the page by going back down to our content section. Let's say hello there. Save, come back, refresh. Hello there, this is our web page. So now you can see how this style, the creation of this style, which is nested within the open style type text CSS and close style, the creation of this style and the design, you could have it blue, you could have it green, save, refresh. You could have it red, save, refresh. You could have it yellow, save, refresh. Not easy to read. Change this to blue, save, refresh. You can see how the modification of this style, this class reads into this div element and it's listening for it because it says div class equals something, could be anything, and then it applies that to the box that this text is inside of.